All right, and it's time for the activist segment now on IsraelNationalRadio.com. We have joining us Shifra Hoffman. Shifra Hoffman is the executive director of Shuva.net. She's also the founder of VictimsOfArabTerror.com. Welcome to the...
Thank you. Tomorrow, I'm having a little trouble hearing. I hope that we're connected all right, because it's important to be heard. And, of course, I thank the Almighty that we have this opportunity to tell the truth, because truth, as they say, crushed to the ground will rise again.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, I want to begin by saying that the core of the problem of what's happening today in the world, and especially in the Middle East, is that people really do not understand the core of the problem. It's not land, it's not money, it's not oppression, it's not occupied territory. It's a religious war. It's a war of Islam against all other beliefs. And here to prove it, I read an item that just came over the wires that Toronto, the city of Toronto in Canada, is enraged over a, quote, no God but Allah subway ad. A Toronto subway ad posted by a radical Islamic group and announcing to riders there is no God but Allah has infuriated area residents, but the officials say the ad does not violate the Human Rights Code. Christians vowed to post their own Jesus is the way ad, while the Jewish Defense League complained that the Muslim ad is sponsored by a group whose website links to other sites and which promotes that every Muslim should be a terrorist. So there you have it. Their idea is to Islamize the world, and they don't consider terror as something terrible. They consider it a duty of every Muslim. What can one say when supposedly the leaders of Israel, they're supposed to actually, be smart, to lead the people, to have learned from all the wars, have learned nothing. They forget everything and learn nothing. And we find Bibi Netanyahu comes regularly to beg, to plead, please, Abu Manza, Abu Abbas, come to the table and let's discuss peace. And so what is this peace? This peace is that we keep giving up precious land and we get back pieces of victims. And this is an assessment which every Jew has to take very seriously. I don't know if there is an answer, because we're not the ones that... We only can pray to the Almighty that He will be merciful and help us, because we've made a mess of things here.
Shifra, before you came on, we had an interview of someone from the Ulpana area of Bethel that they want to come and take down the neighborhood, and this is again, we can blame the defense minister, but the fact is that the defense minister can't do something if the prime minister doesn't say it's okay or doesn't look the other way. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, of course, the late Sylvia Mandelbaum of blessed memory, a very clever woman who at the age of 85 went to Gush Katif and started her pioneering all over again. She built a villa there until she was exiled, or, not exiled, but actually just thrown out of her home with all the others. And she used to call it the crime minister of Israel, CRIME. And, of course, there's good reason to say that. The day before Yom HaShoah, I took my son to see the Gush Katif Museum. Of course, we were involved in trying to stop that terrible outrage, but it wasn't stopped because not enough people came and decided that they should feel the pain of all these people from Gush Katif. Anyway, if you come to the museum, and I hope everybody does, to see it and to remember it, it's on Rehov Shaarei Tzedek in Jerusalem. You have to walk away and say to yourself, Yom HaShoah must have some significance other than just remembering what happened in the Holocaust. It means that there should never be any expulsion of Jews, no matter who does it. And it means that these Jews who are suffering at the hands of their own government, well, what can we say? We don't want to compare them, God forbid, to what happened in the Holocaust, but what you call an expulsion of Jews from their own homes. So the fact is that they're planning to do this again, and as you correctly pointed out, maybe Barak has his agenda because we know what he is, but Bibi Netanyahu, a Likud member, a right-wing so-called, he's playing good cop, bad cop. He's allowing Barak to do these things. And it's up to every Jew who hears and who cares to contact him and to say, shame on you. How dare you do that after Gush Katif?
And there was another one or two topics that you wanted to talk about. Why don't you address those right now?
Yes, well, actually, going back to the fact that this is a religious war, I want to point out that we, the Jewish people, were the ones that were chosen by God to carry the message throughout history. And, of course, we paid in terrible expulsions and blood and all Holocaust and Inquisition, becomes crusades, everything throughout the generations, but we kept the law. We kept our promise as much as we could. And God Almighty, blessed be His holy name, brought us back as we are going to celebrate our 64th birthday, rebirth of Israel, this coming Thursday, God willing. But we have to understand something as well, that our Torah was given, and I refer to the 13 principles of faith, which Rambam, the great Rambam, enumerated. And here are the words. And the eighth principle is, excuse me, I believe with complete faith that the entire Torah now in our hands is the same one that was given to Moses, our teacher, peace be upon him. And the ninth is, I believe with complete faith that this Torah will not be exchanged, nor will there be another Torah from the Creator, blessed is His name. Now, following reading that, which I try to pray every morning, and I hope everybody in their own way should pray to the Almighty because He is the one that runs the world, I find a new report here, conservatives to ordain gay and lesbian rabbis in Israel. The Board of Trustees of the Shechter Rabbinical Seminary voted Thursday night to accept gay and lesbian students for ordination beginning in the next academic year. Affiliated with the Masorti movement in Israel and with the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York, Shechter trains educational and spiritual non-Orthodox leaders for positions in Israel. The Shechter Rabbinical Seminary views the serious process leading to this decision as an example of confronting social dilemmas within the framework of tradition and halakha. Now, I ask you, what halakha, what law are they following? It specifically says in the Torah that homosexuality is an abomination and that man should not lie with man as women. So how can these conservative so-called rabbis decide that they're going to ordain gay and lesbian rabbis in Israel, of all places in Israel where the Torah was given, which says specifically that this is forbidden? And so we have to ask ourselves again, are we doing everything here in Israel so that we can bring the redemption promised by God? I'm afraid it's not so.
All right, and it is a big problem, and especially you know how I and you also have been when people do in their own bedrooms, no one has any control about. That's between them and their partner and God. But when they bring it to the streets and the parade, this is where a problem is when you see a parade like this,
ordination,
a pride parade,
ordination
marching down the streets of Jerusalem,
to say that the abomination is part of the halacha, and therefore they have the right to do this. This is an outrage, and it should be stopped.
And there was one other topic that you wanted to broach as well.
Yes, well, maybe just two. It says that the Supreme Court, we had demonstrated regularly against the Supreme Court because I think they don't think they're the Supreme Court, they think they're the supreme being, and they make the laws according to what they feel personally rather than what should be. It says that the court orders another Hebron expulsion. 6 more Jewish families in Hebron face expulsion after a Jerusalem district court ruled the purchase of their building was a forgery. This ruling comes 2 weeks after the expulsion of 15 families from a building that was proven to be legally purchased, but Defense Minister Ehud Barak determined that the presence of Jews in the 3-story structure was a provocation. Can you imagine the place where our forefathers are buried, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? To have Jews come and live there is a provocation, and to say that the Arab enemies have more rights than we do. So how can we possibly even entertain the thought of peace? Because any thinking Jew and any believing Jew will never be able to accept such a thing.
And And I just want to make sure you have everything in before we have to go. What was the last topic you wanted to tell our listeners about?
Okay, I think we still have some time. I hope so, because I'm getting nice feedback from listeners, and of course tomorrow that's an accolade to you as well, because people out there do know that there is truth to be told, but they don't know what to do about it. And what you can do, and this is the activist in me speaking, you can wring your hands and say, well, what can we do, and it's terrible, and we should, do nothing or just pray. Yes, you have to pray, but you have to work as well. You, who are the Jewish people listening to this program, and all the other Jews in America, wake up, pick up, pack up, and come here. We can change the situation if you come and you show your faith. But by doing nothing and just sitting there and saying it's a terrible thing and a terrible, occurrence and I can't do anything, that's not true. I believe that God Almighty is waiting for you to join us here and show your faith. Excuse me, He will do the rest. Now, the topic I wanted to speak about, maybe last on the agenda, but maybe it should have been one of the first, is the fact that those people who think, well, perhaps we did wrong to the Arab population. Maybe they really do want peace. Not everyone is a terrorist. Well, how about this? 3 Jews were stabbed last week alone, one in Jerusalem, a Hasid, and 2 others, one seriously wounded. What kind of peace will there be if in some miracle they do come to an agreement and they sign a peace treaty, which will never be kept anyway because the Arabs never keep their peace treaties, and we see that throughout history. However, what about the average Arab who hates Jews? What are you going to do with him when he has a knife and a stone and he decides to stone and kill, which you're doing? We become so immune to it that we don't even react. And I say again, the way to do that, the way to stop that, is to come here and exert your influence and to vote out these terrible leaders that are leading us into an abyss, and to make a Jewish state the way the Almighty wants us to have, on the basis on Torah and good deeds and the love of one Jew for another.
All right.
And
Shifra Hoffman, I want to thank you very, very much for being with us.
Tomorrow, I always look forward to being on and speaking with you personally as well, because I know that you share a lot of these thoughts. But I would like people to contact me if you have ideas as to how you can better help Israel. Contact me at hoffmanshifra @gmail.com, HOFFMAN @gmail.com. Just doing nothing is not a solution. And remember, we had already a final solution. One more quick word that I forgot that is very important.
Go ahead.
Well, while we are remembering the victims of the Holocaust, and then we are going to remember Yom HaZikaron, the soldiers who died, more than 23,000, I think it is. May God avenge their blood. But there is no recognition or remembrance of the wounded soldiers. What about all the wounded soldiers of all the wars? Many of them are still in hospitals, many of them blinded, many of them crippled. I think it's up to the government to make a special day regarding the wounded war veterans and to remember them as well.
Shifra, let me ask you this one question before you leave us, and that is, so often when we have to give the news and we have to show, we have to tell the truth, and sometimes oftentimes the truth is very painful. We hear that our leaders are doing things that are weak. We hear that our leaders are doing things that seem to some people as almost treacherous. That how can they betray, the Torah and the land of Israel and the people who are supposed to inherit it? It's not ours to give away. This is our generation. But we don't have the land of Israel belongs to all future generations of the Jewish people. So what does this generation have a right to give up land for a promise of peace? So when people hear this, a lot of people might say, why should I make Aliyah? They're crazy over there in Israel. Why should I leave America, or why should I leave France, or whatever it is? So what would your answer be to people who are thinking of when they hear these stories of, these are not good news stories, who needs to move there? What would you tell them?
Well, first of all, let's look at the historic precedent. When the we stood at the waters of the sea, and the Egyptians were chasing us. We just had Passover, and we learned about that, and Jews were afraid. The first Jew that jumped in, Nachshon, said, if God told us to go, we will go, and the waters parted. So we have to say to all the Jews today, come and show your faith by coming here, and then the waters will part. Then we will have a Jewish state with a Jewish majority, and we can change things with the help of God. But sitting there, first of all, sitting in France with all the anti-Semitism, sitting in America with the terrible, terrible Jew hatred, and I refer to our website, www.shuva.com. See what's waiting for you. So you have really a warning sign. If there's no guarantees in life about how long one can live, but certainly for a Jew, isn't it better to say, I want to be with my people in my land and do for my country that which Jews have done for every country on the face of the earth, only to find too late we are best tolerated and at worst annihilated. That's your answer. Come home and leave the faith that you showed to God to judge, and He will do the rest.
Amen. Very, very well said. Thank you, Shifra Hoffman.
Thank you.
All right, and so I don't know about what your situation is in America. If you're listening to this radio show from the United States or Canada or Europe or anywhere, any continent on this earth, if you are sitting right now in the exile, I don't understand you. I remember when I was 18 years old, the first thing I wanted to do after I graduated high school was to come to Israel. I loved America. It was a wonderful country. But I knew that being a Jew, I belonged in Israel. I couldn't wait to come and join the army so I could serve my country, so I can help protect my country. Maybe it was because my father was a Holocaust survivor and he fought in the War of Independence here in Israel. But for whatever reason, someone becomes a quote-unquote Zionist. Anybody who loves Israel, who loves their people, cannot sit in the exile and say, well, I have a job here, I know the language, and my family, what I'm going to uproot them, and oh, she was only 18, blah, blah, blah. Well, my parents came, by the way. They came a year after I made Aliyah. I made Aliyah at 18 years old. My parents came when I was 19. They brought the rest of my two older brothers and sisters and moved out of the house. They're older. But I had two younger brothers, 13 years old, and I think the other one was about 6 or 7 years old. I don't remember. And they came. They picked up and they left because you have to make a decision. Because there's always going to be a million excuses why you can't come to Israel. What am I going to do for a job there? How are my children going to get along? We don't know the language. It's a different culture. It's so hard. I know people who made Aliyah and came back and they failed. What? I'm going to do that to my family? Blah, blah, blah. The situation's not good economically. The situation is too good economically to leave. There's always a zillion reasons why you don't have to why you think you don't need to make Aliyah or you can't make Aliyah. But the fact is that if you love your people and you love your country, you will give up everything in order to be with that country and that people and your nation. It's like if, God forbid, you have a child who you love so much and he gets sick and has to go to the hospital and he has to be a lengthy stay there and it's touch and go. You don't know what's going to happen. And you have to stay overnights with him because you don't want to leave your child alone, and it's hard for you, and then you get sick at the hospital, and you have no place to sleep, and it's cold floors if you sleep on the floor. And whatever the situation, the conditions are going to be, the doctors are nice, the doctors are not nice, the nurses are nice, the nurses are not nice, the hospital food is good, the hospital food is not good. The question is, or the fact is that if you love your child, you're going to be there, good or bad, easy or hard, because you love your child. And the same thing with Aliyah, with the land of Israel, with the state of Israel, with the people of Israel, with your nation, the Jewish people. You're going to say, I love my people, and I want my destiny entwined with the Jewish people. Whatever happens to the Jewish people, hard or easy, bumpy or smooth, good or bad, easy or hard, whatever it is, my destiny is going to be entwined with my people, Israel. And you pick up and you move. You know, when we were in Egypt And we had to make the choice. Do we leave the superpower of the world? Because Egypt was like America, the superpower of the world. Do we leave it all now that we don't even have to be slaves anymore after all these plagues? And do we go into a desert with an old man and we don't know when we're going to get to the promised land? We don't know if I'm going to have a job there. I don't know how well I speak the language. I don't know if my kids will adjust, blah, blah, blah. My parents are buried here in Egypt, blah, 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 blah. They could have said that, but who are the people who said, come easy, come hard, come good, come bad, whatever it takes, how long, if I have a job there, I don't have a job there, if I can make a living in the promised land, I can't make, whatever it is, I am putting my destiny in with the Jewish people. I want to be with my people. Sof HaSipur, the end of the story. There's nothing else to consider. And you pick up everything and you move. When God told Abraham, Lech lecha, go out from yourself, go out. What did Abraham do? He didn't say, okay, God, in another 5 years when my portfolio matures. Or when I can get more money for my tent. Right now the market's pretty low for tents, and I can't take this big tent with me, so when, blah, blah, blah. He didn't. What did he do? The very next day, he packed up his belongings early in the morning and they left. He took the blessings that God had given him at that time, not what he might have in another 5 years' time. But whatever blessings God had already given him, that's what he took with him. And that's why I'm urging all of my brothers and sisters still living in the exile to make the decision that Israel, with good leaders, with bad leaders, and don't forget we can vote them out if you're here to vote. Whether it's easy or hard, whether you know the language or you have to learn it still, whether you can have a job or you don't have the job you want, you'll get the job only later on when you get used to things here. Whatever it is, you make the decision, I want to be with my people. My children's destiny, my seed is going to be planted here in the land of Israel. My future generations will say, I'm an Israeli today because my grandpa Yossi and my grandma Rachel left the exile and came home to Israel. That's the decision that everybody has to make because you really love Israel and you're going to show that you love Israel with your feet. And how much time is left in the exile where it will still be safe for you? I don't know. But one thing I do know, this is your home.